creed, the profession of faith, is serving a number of different purposes in the liturgy. Primarily for us, it's part of our response to God's word that's been proclaimed and broken open in the liturgy of the word. It's our assent of faith. It's our confession of faith. The Nicene Creed, or the more formal full title, the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed, is drawn from some of the early councils of the Church Fathers. The Council of Nicaea took place in 325 AD and really was an attempt as the leaders of the church of that time gathered together to discuss and address lots of questions of faith, particularly about the identity and the person of Jesus as the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity. And during the course of those councils in the 4th century, lots of discussion, lots of reflection, and finally a conclusion with a statement of faith about what the church believed about who Jesus was, and in light of Jesus, who God is, and how the three persons of the Trinity relate one to another. The Creed is a renewal of our baptismal faith, Sunday after Sunday. And each of us can only speak for the faith that as individuals we hold in our hearts. I can't, as an individual, speak for the faith of another person standing nearby. So all I can really say effectively and meaningfully is that I believe in one God. And together in the liturgical assembly, all of those become a communal profession of faith, but flowing from each of our individual assent and our profession. I would hope that as we do that, it would really speak to our hearts and help us stand firm in our conviction what we, each of us individually, believe. The words of the Creed were carefully chosen, probably hotly debated among those gathered at the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Constantinople. During those controversial years, as there were different theories about Jesus' origin and his divinity were floating around in different pockets of the church, there was bloodshed over belief. Some of the martyrs of the church were martyred for their standing firm in conviction against heresy and standing firm in their conviction and professing the faith. These are words that were carefully chosen and have been handed down from generation to generation. Only begotten Son of God, consubstantial with the Father, incarnate of the Virgin Mary. All of these words have a nuance that is important for us. Jesus isn't just the only Son of God, as though the big deal is that he's an only child. But he is the only begotten Son of God, which says he's not created by God, begotten by God. He flows from the Father, but is of the same substance, literally consubstantial with the Father, who literally took on flesh, was incarnate, not just born of Mary, but this was the eternal Son of God who then took on flesh in the womb of Mary. And so all of these technical terms have theological grounding. We might say that some of these words are unfamiliar and we don't use them in our everyday vocabulary or our everyday speech. Well, that's because in our everyday speech we don't talk about such mysteries and such holy things as describing the nature of the Holy Trinity. They are, in fact, mysteries. We can't fully explain how the persons of the Trinity are related. We use images, we use metaphors to describe them. Our vocabulary, our ability to understand is limited until the time that we'll behold God face to face in his kingdom. Until then, our language helps us to understand, but ultimately we can't fully explain. And so some of these unfamiliar words, in some ways, will help us confront what we don't fully understand.